Hello, I'm Malcolm Cox. We're studying the book of Matthew, and today we're in Matthew chapter 8, verses 14 to 17, and our title is Shalom for All. Let's read the text. When Jesus came into Peter's house, he saw Peter's mother-in-law lying in bed with a fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she got up and began to wait on him. When evening came, many who were demon-possessed were brought to him, and he drove out the spirits with a word and healed all the sick. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. He took up our infirmities and bore our diseases. The hat trick of marginalized people is capped by Peter's mother-in-law. Her house and Peter's might well have been where Jesus is staying in Capernaum. After a hard day taking care of business, isn't it hard to have compassion at home? I find it is anyway. But Jesus is wired differently. Tired as he must have been and probably hungry, he goes to this person with few rights or expectations and demonstrates that God is just as interested in her and her needs as any mighty person of society. And Matthew adds an editorial note here. He describes these events as fulfilling Scripture, Isaiah 53. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering. But what kind of suffering? Spiritual or physical? The Hebrew nouns of the Isaiah 53 passage are literally about physical suffering. However, the context directs us to see that they are being used in a metaphorical sense. The main focus of the whole chapter is atonement for sin. The original context was to do with spiritual healing, but what Matthew sees in the life of Jesus leads him to realize that it has relevance for physical healing too. Another commentator suggests that we may miss Matthew's main point by focusing on whether a spiritual or physical meaning is primary. Instead, perhaps the point is one of the contrast between ritual purity and impurity. The reason for thinking this is that the three people physically healed in chapter 8 would have been considered ritually unclean, or at least second-class citizens. Leprosy is defiling, the Gentile is unclean, and Peter's mother-in-law is a woman, and as such shouldn't be around touching physically with a rabbi. I believe the core of what Jesus is doing is bringing peace to troubled people, whether physically or spiritually troubled. The very next verse in the Isaiah passage I referred to says, "The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed." Jesus is bringing peace, bringing shalom. We all need this peace, and so do our friends. Jesus freely offers it, so let us lead others to him to find the shalom they need. We'll go on to the next part of Matthew chapter 8 in the next recording, but until then, I hope you have a wonderful day, and God bless.